From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, I have the latest export sales with Greg McBride of Allendale. Dustin visits with House Ag Committee Chair G.T. Thompson, and Mark has a clip from the latest episode of Pods of Potential. Now let's listen in with our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Well, thank you, Riley. And we start off today's show with some breaking news. U.S. Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service has announced that there was a detection of antibodies to pseudorabies virus, PRV, that was found in a small commercial swine facility in Iowa. And this confirmation was a result of routine testing, not pre-movement surveillance. Now, initial traceback indicates that the 5 affected boars came from an outdoor facility in Texas. Animals from that herd also tested positive for pseudorabies. And so the thinking, Dustin, is that those animals were exposed to feral swine in Texas, and that's how they got those antibodies for the pseudorabies virus. But this is the first confirmed instance of finding that since 2004, which is a long time, obviously, because it has been, for the most part, eradicated from commercial herds.
Yeah, that is right, Mark, and it's definitely not something we want to hear. Pseudorabies can be quite contagious and, can be quite a big pain. And so we obviously, hopefully, are going to get this caught in advance. I know the secretary later on this afternoon is going to have a press conference giving us an update on the situation. Mark will be monitoring that very closely to find out, and we'll have more on that at iowaagnet.com later today after that address from the Secretary of Agriculture. But, Mark, that was one of the things that got brought up when we were in Washington, D.C. this week for the Washington Watch event with NAFB. Those from the southern states, Texas and Oklahoma and that area, talking to the Department of the Interior, because they brought up the topic about controlling wolf populations and when farmers are able to step in without violating endangered species protection, but when, a farmer can finally say enough's enough without getting any reprisals from the federal government. But then it was brought up about the feral hog situation in Texas and Oklahoma. That, of course, is a big problem across much of the South. People are hunting them. It's almost year-round open season on these animals to try to get them under control. And they are quite nasty. You encounter them in the wild. People will say you do not want to encounter. It's almost better to encounter a wolf than it is a feral hog, because a wolf may be timid and at least run away. A feral hog will come at you. And so they are a nuisance down there. And unfortunately, there was no real resolution yet that the Department of Interior is coming up with, but they are working on stuff. It's just, again, a problem that we've seen, and now it's starting to have implications for us up here. And, as this becomes a big issue, this may be a good talking point or a good platform to start a conversation on what to do about these feral hogs, because now if their influence, maybe they're not coming here as far north, which they could, but maybe they aren't yet. But their influence is starting to have an effect on what's going on north of these areas. And that's going to become a problem that we're going to have to monitor very closely.
And to add to that, Dustin, what you just mentioned, the detection does not pose a risk to consumer health or affect the safety of the commercial pork supply. There may be limited short-term impacts on exports of U.S. swine and or swine genetics. And pseudorabies, contagious viral disease of livestock and other mammals. However, pigs are the only natural host. Pseudorabies virus can infect most mammals. Humans, horses, and birds are considered resistant. So that is the upside of that story.
Well, of course, we're going to see how that affects the pork market, if at all. But right now, we're going to get into those grain markets as Matt Bennett joins Mark Magnuson for the grains.
Joined today by Matt Bennett of agmarket.net for our opening market discussion. Matt, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Now we got a little bit up move so far here. Whenever you look, for instance, at the corn market, we're penny and a half, 2 cents off the highs. Had some upward movement last night. If you look yesterday, actually is the first time we had 8 straight sessions of higher closes for the corn market. Yesterday, of course, we closed off. We'd gotten some of the highest levels we'd seen in a while. Actually, a new high for the move yesterday. Whenever you're looking, for instance, at D's corn, we got up to $4.99 3/4. Almost got, to that $5 level. But as we sit here today, we're trading $4.97 1/4 still. So, the market looks to be I don't know. I would say somewhat supported at the same time. I think people are kind of wondering, what's the weather going to look like moving forward? We know there's still a lot of places that are sitting, and given fertilizer prices, you've got to assume that that's going to be talked about here. People are going to be watching very closely just to see how much longer some of these folks have to sit. So, looking at the other markets, beans are up just a little. Beans haven't had quite as good a week as corn, still kind of in that sideways pattern that they've been in for quite some time. Whereas the wheat market right now is, it's on the mixed side, but not really doing anything too exciting. The wheat market's been the star of the show here lately, but right now it just kind of looks like it's in a holding pattern.
Matt, something I wanted to ask you today was we, of course, know about the situation with the Strait of Hormuz and slowing down the shipment of fertilizer, and we're hyper-focused on that fertilizer making it here to the U.S., but there's also concerns for every other country that needs fertilizer that goes through that area. Are there any concerns about world numbers of production just in terms of fertilizer right now?
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's concerns there. One of the bigger concerns, I think, which is probably exacerbated this wheat rally, if you will, is what's urea flow going to look like? How much urea is going to be available? What's it going to cost? Because clearly wheat is highly relying on urea, not only the cost, of course, but just the availability of it. So there's no question that that's going to be a big concern moving forward. And, from my vantage point, world feed grains are definitely going to be, in my opinion, supported. Just trying to figure out, what are we going to be able to produce next year? What's a grower going to be able to afford to do? I think there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to have to get answered because, from the way that we're looking at it, just nitrogen source, for instance, for corn, if we can't get some relief somewhere in here, $5 corn for D's 27, wow, historically, that's a great price. That price doesn't look too good at all whenever you look at just what your fertilizer is expected to cost you. So there's a chance, you have to buy December corn in essence to be able to secure some acres for next year.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters. And of course, as Mark mentioned earlier, first day of May means a new episode of Pods of Potential is out. And Mark had the chance to visit about conservation and policy and where those two meet. And we have in that episode right now.
Welcome into this episode of the Pods of Potential podcast. It's episode number 30. And today's topic of discussion is how conservation and ag policy overlap. And we're here with our friends at the Iowa Soybean Association today, joined by Chief Officer of Demand and Advocacy at Iowa Soybean Association, Matt Herman. Also joined by Story County farmer and ISA District 5 Director Dave Struthers and Iowa State University Professor Mike Castellano. The Iowa Soybean Association's Research Center for Farming Innovation, driven to deliver productive, profitable, and sustainable practices to Iowa's farmers. So guys, let's get to know each other a little bit here today. For our listeners, I know all of you, I think, decently well. I've had a chance to interview you guys a few times here before. But first of all, we'll start with you, Matt. Mention you're the Chief Officer of Demand and Advocacy at Iowa Soybean. Could you tell me, Matt, are you originally from Iowa? First of all, could you tell us where you're from? Also, your history of working in ag, and what's your favorite thing about your role right now?
Sure. Well, thanks for putting this together, Mark. I grew up in Northeast Iowa. I kind of describe it south of LaPorte City. For those of you who are kind of familiar with that area, like 3 miles north of the Dysart seed plant. So that's kind of my reference if you've ever toured that facility or picked up seed there. I grew up, my dad still farms, the family operation. It's corn and soybeans, and he says that he has a bad habit of buying beef cattle every winter to feed, so he still does that. And candidly, I ran kicking and screaming away from the farm with the idea of I'm never going to go back and work on agriculture. But then I ended up at Iowa State University and studied public policy, and then started working in biofuels at Renewable Energy Group in Ames, and pretty quickly realized that this world of biofuels was inextricably linked with agriculture. And as I got more into this industry, I realized that the real opportunity here was back on the farm. And how do we put growers in a position to unlock more raw material at a price that's competitive for them and provides them a return? And so through that experience, really ended up coming back and looking back at talking to my dad, looking back into the farm and saying, I really need to be working in an agricultural association. I really need to be working for the farmers, taking my knowledge on bioenergy, but really trying to pair it back up with agriculture.
And do you think that's something that you really enjoy about your job, Matt, is taking there's a lot of background information that goes into the biofuel side. There's a lot to understand to help kind of facilitate that for farmers to know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I love that piece of it, right? Trying to boil it down and make it make sense, right? Because to your point, Mark, it is so complicated. But I think what really excites me is in my mind's eye, what I see this circle, which is biofuel and bioenergy policy. And then I see this other circle, which is kind of agricultural policy, things like Farm Bill, but even conservation policy here at the state level. And to me, there is this overlap of these two circles. There is this Venn diagram. And so to get in the middle and kind of play translator with both these groups and to help understand how these things can fit together, that's what I really love about my job and my role.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com. Time to run down those basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Friday. Back in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. All the elevators have switched now to the July contracts with the exception of one. We will make sure to point that one out to you. ADM Burlington, they're a dime under on corn, $4.67. Soybeans, 22 cents under at $11.80. Cargill and Eddyville, 20 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.57. New Co-op Algona, 42 cents under on corn, $4.35. Soybeans, 72 cents under, cash bid $11.30. At Ag State Sheldon, they're 30 cents under on corn, $4.47. Soybeans, 80 cents under at $11.22. Ag State Alta, 38 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.39. Soybeans, 75 cents under at $11.27. Cargill Cedar Rapids, 17 cents under on corn, $4.60. Soybeans, 30 cents under at $11.72. Five Star Co-op in Nashua, 34 cents under on corn, $4.43. Soybeans, 70 cents under, $11.32. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 29 cents under on corn, the cash bid $4.48. ADM Des Moines, 30 cents under on soybeans, their cash price $11.72. New Co-op Red Oak, 35 cents under on corn, $4.42. Soybeans, 70 cents under, $11.32. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 53 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.24. Soybeans, 86 cents under at $11.16. New Co-op Sheraton, 34 cents under on corn, $4.43. Soybeans, 70 cents under, cash price $11.32. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 44 cents under on corn, $4.33. Soybeans, 70 cents under, cash price $11.32. New Co-op Glidden, 40 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.37. Soybeans, 70 cents under, $11.32. Innovative Ag Services in Farley, they're 48 cents under on corn, the cash price $4.29. Soybeans, 71 cents under, cash bid $11.31. And finally today at Cargill Muscatine, they're a dime under the May corn contract at $4.55. They're 15 cents under the May beans at $11.70. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a rundown of your basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
Well, while I was out in Washington, D.C., we're back on Iowa Ag Matters. I had the chance to hear from House Ag Chair G.T. Thompson of Pennsylvania. This was just minutes ahead of the rules procedure vote in the House that allowed for the passage of the Farm Bill on Thursday. It also brings up the debate rules for the E15 GOP budget and also funding the Department of Homeland Security. This is what G.T. Thompson had to say about the Farm Bill right before.
I guess the bottom line can anyone say Farm Bill? I mean, this has been a process. And a somewhat predictable process as we've moved along. Of course, this is a bill that we wrote not in Washington, but around the countryside, in pastures and barnyards and tool sheds, 43 different states, one territory, and probably over 160 listening sessions at this point. And where we're at in the process, as you all know, this bill passed out of committee with bipartisan votes. I believe we'll be voting on the roll here about 10:30, I think. And it'll be a combined roll. This is a pretty historic week when you think of everything that we have to get done in a day and a half. I'm scratching my head on that part. I'm not going to pack my bags anytime soon to head home. But we have FISA, we have a budget resolution. There's an education workforce bill. I mean, there's some really important stuff. But obviously, in my opinion, one of the most important things is the Farm Bill. And so the Senate or the Rules Committee put a lot of time into this. And I'll be meeting with my members here and the Republican members in just a little bit to kind of go over, what the Rules Committee had done in terms of what they found in order to vote on and what they hadn't. And then at some point, the fun will start today. I'll go back to the floor and we'll have what amendments were made in order will come to the floor. I'll be managing the bill on the Republican side. And with any degree of luck and timeliness, at least what I was counting on at the beginning of the week, we'll have a Farm Bill. The Farm Food and National Security Act of 2026 will be passed out of the House by noon tomorrow. Now, there were some games played in rules. My Democrat friends really stretched the process out. So maybe we won't be done by noon. I don't know. We'll leave that up to leadership to figure out. Well, let me stop there and see what questions you might have. Yes, sir.
Dustin from Iowa After Business Radio Network. I know a lot of listeners in Iowa are concerned with things in the bill, E15 rider, and also the Prop 12 situation. We're hearing a mess of twist right now as that puts ready to go to the floor.
Well, I'm expecting an opportunity to vote addressing Prop 12 is in the bill itself, and it's the right thing to do. It's actually following through on what the Supreme Court, in their minority opinions, told us, is that Prop 12 is an issue. It's a states' rights issue because one state can't be able to dictate to other states, but it is legislation, and we have a farm bill coming up. So we're just the language, the save our bacon provision is in the baseline of the bill. I have to look at to see if there's going to be an amendment to try to strike that, but certainly fully supportive of that. And then, I'm sorry, with the other, E15 is a separate bill. There was a lot of strategies discussed on E15, year-round E15. I'm very supportive of that. And I say that with some authority. I represent the very first oil well in the world, in this country anyways, in 1859, Drake Well, and the longest continuing operating oil refinery, 1864, still going strong in McKean County, McKean County. And so that was, I think the strategy the leadership settled on was that was going to be a separate bill, whether it would be merged or merged at some point with the Farm Bill. That's yet to be seen, but it is included. That's included with the package of bills that the Rules Committee has dispensed with.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Well, Dustin, the House passing its version of the Farm Bill, but I still have some questions, including what exactly did happen with E15. Could you explain that situation and where we're at now?
Okay, from what we understand from the House after the bill was passed yesterday, hearing from other broadcasters that were still out there after I had long taken off, the fact of the matter is we didn't at first have enough votes in the rules procedures to get the Farm Bill even to the floor of the House and include it with the other bills that we mentioned earlier. Finally, some wheeling and dealing got done. Speaker Johnson worked with some Republicans that were not very supportive of E15 and said, okay, if we make sure the E15 is a standalone bill and not able to be wrapped back into the Farm Bill, because there was a loophole, Thompson did tell us, where they had it as a standalone bill, but if it didn't pass, they could somehow work it back into the Farm Bill. Part of that conversation was, we'll leave it as a standalone bill if you guys will at least support the Farm Bill to get it across. And you guys can have your stance against E15 later on its own, which I think there'll still be enough bipartisan to pass that, hopefully. But also then it was to make sure, so E15 will still be a bill on its own, Mark, but it was enough to get enough procedural votes to get it back to a 216-210 margin. Because at one point, it was going to be a dead tie. And unlike the Senate, where the vice president then has the tie-breaking vote, there wasn't that situation in the House. If you have a tie, then it's a loss. You have to have a simple majority to pass something in the House on many occasions. So that was a situation we ran into, and thankfully they were able to get some votes changed and then get the Farm Bill to the floor yesterday, which was surprising because we were hearing maybe after the May recess, but now it looks like it's going to be, it obviously looked like it got put up and moved quickly because Thompson said he wasn't going to go on recess unless that Farm Bill was passed. So that's where it stands right now. I hope that makes a little sense, and we'll keep watching that E15 bill as it has a chance to get to the floor later this month. More Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson, joined in midday by Lori Carter of Comstock for the Midday Market discussion. Lori, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
The grains are a little bit mixed at the moment. We have Kansas City wheat trading up 2 1/4 to 3 1/4. Chicago wheat is down 1 1/4 to 2 cents. Corn up 4 3/4 for the most part across the board, and soybeans up 2 1/2 on July. Old crop up 6 1/2 on the November.
And Lori, speaking of those wheat markets, wheat has been in the headlines here in the ag marketplace in recent weeks. You're in wheat growing country in Kansas. Could you kind of tell us the situation of what you're dealing with right now?
So we do have pretty severe dryness in our area of Kansas. I'm in the southwest corner. There's a little bit better situations to the east, but the prolonged dryness definitely impacting yields in the entire area.
And as we look at the ag marketplace going into this weekend, what do you think are going to be the major stories next week in the grain side of the market? What are you going to be watching?
Again, weather forecast, whether moisture actually happens, and then we'll have some updated condition reports on Monday.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Kind of continued strength in the cattle. We have fat cattle up $1.70 to $2.02, feeder cattle up $3.70 to $3.90, and they've been up higher than that. New contract highs pretty much across the board. Hogs are the weak link there. They're down 15 to 67, kind of trading either side of unchanged.
Is there a little bit of a balancing act happening in the cattle side right now? Because yes, you mentioned those contract highs, those lofty highs that we have seen, and you can see the reasons behind that. It doesn't seem like the border is going to reopen anytime soon. We know the supply situation, but at the same time, you don't want to turn away consumers who are already dealing with those very high prices in the store.
I would agree, and I'm a little bit surprised at the strength that we can maintain in the whole complex with that going on. Packers are not making money, and the price is high enough that I think it has discouraged demand.
What's happening on the hog side here today?
Down 32 to down 80, very quiet, not much movement in either direction.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
You can call me at 712-227-1171.
She is Lori Carter of Comstock, my guest here in Midday. Thanks so much for the time and have a great weekend.
Thank you, too.
Start your weekend with insight and inspiration on Weekend Ag Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Every week we bring you an in-depth look at the top ag stories with a recap of the week's biggest headlines. Join us for long-format interviews with industry leaders and policymakers, giving you insights you won't hear anywhere else. And don't miss our faith-based segment with Russ Parker, Food for Thought, offering a perspective that helps bring clarity and focus to our lives. Make Weekend Ag Matters part of your weekend routine. Tune in every weekend on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
May corn up 3 cents at $4.67 3/4. December corn up 4 1/2 at $4.98 3/4. May soybeans down 3/4 cent at $11.81 1/4. November soybeans up 6 1/2 at $11.79 1/2. May soybean meal at $3.21.20, down $1.10. May soybean oil at $76.45, up 9 cents. June live cattle at $255.05, up $1.05. May feeder cattle at $376.48, up $3.83. May lean hogs up 3 cents at $93.48. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters as we take a look at what's happening in the livestock markets, those cattle and hog prices. Matt Bennett of agmarket.net rejoining the conversation to give us his thoughts on what's happening with livestock with Mark Magnuson.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade here on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, you see corn markets up, but yet, you look over at livestock and obviously cattle are doing well again. I mean, we're not making a new high just yet here today. Earlier in the week, you took June cattle up almost to $256. As we talk here today, we're off of that. I don't know, $1.20, $1.30 from where we topped out at. But no doubt the cattle market continues to stay strong and resilient. This cash market's been strong as can be. A lot of people selling fats, of course, higher than what they ever have in their career. And there's no doubt that there's a lot of demand there. You're getting into grilling season. And so no question that people are going to not back off on demand right now. Bottom line is it's stayed super resilient. And as long as those cattle aren't coming north of the border, I've got to think that some of the people that have been long this cattle market for so long, particularly the funds, they seem a little more emboldened to stay long, if not push it a little bit.
What's happening on the hog side?
Hogs are actually down here today. And so whenever you look, of course, cattle up, hogs down. The hog market actually gapped lower on the open. And in all honesty, hogs look a little bit tired. It looks to me like they're struggling to get the same sort of enthusiasm that you see over on the cattle side of things. But again, you're still looking at triple digits on your first 3 months. Now you get farther on out, for instance, December hogs, you're all the way down there at $82. So no doubt that upfront demand is something that the market sees. But later on, it certainly looks like you could see some devaluation there. But as far as hogs go, I still think that, that substitution effect has been a big stalwart, if you will, for the hog market, seeing cattle so strong. But you look at the charts and they don't look all that similar.
Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. Head to agmarket.net for all of the marketing information and resources and to get in touch with the team. Matt, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it and have a great weekend.
Oh, absolutely. You as well.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it is time now for the Export Sales Report. Here is Greg McBride of Allendale with R. Riley Smith. You're listening to the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Riley Smith, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, on the phone right now with Greg McBride of Allendale as we take a look at the weekly U.S. Export Sales Report. And Greg, what have we seen the latest numbers from the USDA for those corn sales?
Yeah, another strong week of corn sales, 1.598 million tons for old crop. We also did have 440,000 tons of new crop sales, so just over 2 million tons for that corn crop. This particular week for the old crop sales at just shy of 1.6 million is the second best week, second best showing that we've ever had for this particular week in the marketing year. So very, very good. This is a continued strength in that export market at a time where we're kind of seeing a little bit of divergence because the ethanol numbers continue to just slightly miss along the way. So the ethanol usage not as good, but the exports are more than keeping up their pace here.
And then on the soybean side of things, we know that that's been a little bit disappointing recently. There have been maybe some silver linings, but how did they look this week?
Yeah, it's another miss. This is the lowest sale that we've had for this particular week in 7 years. Came in 258,000 tons of old crop. That was at the lower end of the estimated range. We were looking for somewhere between 200 and 600,000 tons. New crop side of things, this is not necessarily when we would be looking for new crop sales just yet. That's generally going to be in June and July, but very minor 3,000 tons on that new crop side of things. So again, this is another miss. We continue to run behind on exports, but this is the opposite situation that we have to the corn, where corn exports are very good, but usage for ethanol is not as good as we expect. On the bean side of things, the exports are the laggard, and the crush is the strength for overall usage. So it continues to kind of play this dichotomy, corn versus beans.
And then did we see any flash sales or anything this week? And would we, expect to see those flash sales anyways?
We have not seen any flash sales since a week ago Wednesday, so it's been kind of a quiet time. Normally, we don't see a heck of a lot of sales for beans at this time of the year anyway. Brazil has pretty well finished up their harvest. So Argentina is still working on theirs, but overall, they've got a solid hold on the pricing for beans. On the corn side of things, yes, we do still see some flash sales from time to time. At this time of the year, a lot of times it's going to be Mexico or something like that. So this week's sales, the big sales, were mostly confined to Central and South America. So Venezuela was a big buyer, Colombia was a buyer, Mexico was a big buyer, but we haven't seen any actual flash sales reported since April 22nd.
All right, Greg, lots of great information today. For anybody who would like to get in touch for more marketing information, how can they do that?
Give us a call at 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
Stay up to date with the latest in the ag industry with Agribusiness Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Each weekday, we bring you the latest advancements in farming, from new precision ag technology to cutting-edge sustainable farming practices. Agribusiness Matters is also your source for the most relevant ag news, policy discussions, and insights that are shaping the future of agriculture. Tune in to Agribusiness Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, with that, we are going to put the wraps on another episode, another week of the Iowa Ag Matters program. Glad to be back here after an eventful and busy week in Washington, D.C., and we'll be bringing you more coverage here throughout future episodes of Iowa Ag Matters. Be looking online as well at iowaagnet.com. Thanks to Riley. Thanks to Mark for pitching in all week while I was there. And thanks to you for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.